So a good part of my life involves participating in some way in foreign languages. But my entire way of doing it and approach and the space that I'm in when I'm working with my target languages, it's not good right now at all, and really is dominated by so many unhealthy patterns, similar to like other skills of mine. Like it's a lot the same with climbing, and like exercise in general. But I really want to improve, and like I need to make a better space for our language learning and practicing. And what I really should think of is participating in other languages in the spirit in general of participating in living realities. Anyway, I'm just gonna sort of delineate how it is right now and what the issues and obstacles are and what I'm trying to do to fix them. Because it's possible to improve. I'm definitely better than I was like years ago in high school with language learning, and for instance, my writing feels a lot better, well, slightly better lately. I just like way backed off on the discipline from that, and things just sort of come when they do. And then I like making these videos, and I'm satisfied with them, and I feel like I'm in a good pace and rhythm for those. So I want it to be a similar thing with languages. So obviously, words in general are kind of my life, and also foreign languages. I think I'm fairly good at language learning. I'm good at learning accents. I always start with the accent, and I highly recommend starting with the accent because it makes you feel so confident, and it's very fun. And you pick up like the spirit and sort of the attitude of the language, and also the typical like phrases, and then that's gives a lot more character to, instead of just plodding through like basic grammar and sounding super American. Anyway, I started language learning officially. I tried to learn Esperanto at one period, but that didn't last very long. I don't think I remember any of it except the word for girls is very ugly. I hated it. What is it? It's very ugly. Sorry, Esperanto people. I respect them, and I sort of want to learn. I don't know, there's like so many that I want to learn. I want to learn everything. I want to learn Latin. I want to learn Greek. I want to learn Russian. I want to learn like every language I come across. I'm like, I want to learn this. But there's a few that are centers for me, and I'm like, okay, yes, this definitely like is a priority. And the other ones, you know, assuming that Nostro Jesu really is right about that whole resurrected body thing, I'll get to those in the ages of ages hence. But I started with Spanish just because it's more useful, and indeed it has been very useful. And my like quarantine hobby was French, because I wanted to pronounce the songs from Les Mis correctly, and really to learn French pronunciation, you do kind of have to just learn the whole language even now. It's a challenge. Anyway, so I started with Spanish and French, and I was at that time devoting my whole life to quite a rigorous like homeschool, high school program in my own studies, and I was very intense about looking for the right method of language learning and doing a lot of like Anki cards, and really neurotic about making progress and tracking how much, and always looking at like videos, and also not really having my own confidence in my own methods, so that every time somebody else would give me advice that would often be contradictory advice or on the internet, I would like take that in, and it was just a mishmash of different angles, and I had nothing of my own to really stand up against that, and it was very bad. But my old diary entries are full of me bemoaning my lack of progress, and just like, yeah, it was bad. And now, the languages that I mostly use are, of course, English, Tokipona, and Italian. And both of those languages, the two. I love them so much. I'm just like drawn to them. I find them so beautiful and alive. I enjoy the process. I enjoy working with them. Like they feel right to be speaking sort of at the center of, if you think of the language learning as a gestalt and as a center, like at the center of it there is a lot of this light and there's a lot of this like vida pickar sama. I want to learn and I enjoy it, but still the frame of mind that I'm in, if I sit down to translate something into Tokipona as I was just doing, or watch something in Italian, or translate something, or speak, like there's sort of these edge forces or spirits or patterns that absolutely destroy all of the enjoyment and also all of the skill that I've acquired. I'm fairly fluent in Tokipona, and I've come enough in Italian that I can enjoy it, but I can't because it's just dominated by this thing of like, it's just never enough. Whatever I'm doing or whatever I can do, like it's always just like attacking that, and I'm always focused on and only seeing the mistakes, like the edges and the lack, which makes zero sense, but it's such a habit. It's so ingrained. So like instead of enjoying it, I'm constantly frustrated because, for instance, I'm comparing myself with a native speaker of Italian, or with the more fluent Tokipona speakers, but I'll just use Italian mostly because Tokipona, I noticed that this is an issue because like Tokipona is a fun language, right? Entirely so. And yet I'm still so self-critical with Tokipona. It literally exists to be simple and easy and fun and positive, and yet I find a way. But no, so Italian I'll be like comparing it with a native speaker or with my skill with English, when like the nature of the thing is that it requires time participating in that. Like I've spent years immersed in English, deepening my fluency very much, and that's good, and like I'm a fluent English speaker because of that time, and as I put the same time into Italian I will also become more deepened in that. But like there can't be a shortcut, and I don't even want there to be a shortcut. Like it's okay as long as I'm not putting English fluency expectations upon my baby Italian fluency, but I am, but I do this. So it's just so frustrating because of wrong expectations. I would enjoy reading or listening to something, but again, my attention just veers towards only like how, like I was just watching a vlog in Italian and like how I can't understand some pieces of it, or like, oh well they're just speaking really slowly like for beginners, so like it doesn't count, or how when I'm reading something it is more opaque than English and it takes more effort, and how watching a video, like I have to read the subtitles and I can't just understand it just with my ear, so that doesn't count. Or how when I'm listening to something and it's easy and fun, oh well it's just an illusion because really there's this gap that's always widening between my spoken fluency and my comprehension fluency, and I couldn't really produce those phrases and I couldn't speak like that. So therefore all that I'm doing by listening is just like widening this gap between, and increasing the frustration of my speaking by widening the gap between spoken and comprehension. So like even when it is going really well, then I find that way to like ruin it. Or I suppose I shouldn't fault myself for this, but it's a pattern. Yeah. When obviously that's just how it works. Like I'm reading a David Bentley Hart book. I can't write like him, but I can take in what he's writing and analyze it, or any book that I read. Anyway, or if I'm looking up phrases when I'm reading or watching, how like I look it up, but I'm like, well, it was a waste of effort because I probably won't remember it. Or if I'm translating, like I was just translating something into Tokipona, I'm like mostly focusing on how slow I am. Now I'm having to deliberate between all these different phrases and how the phrases like aren't quite right, or like I was sort of lazy and like cut corners and didn't really put effort into making sure that phrase was perfect, etc. Basically anything that is and that starts to be good, there will be 2 or 3 other angles that are always biting at that and cutting at it and taking it away and saying that it doesn't count and that it isn't good enough or isn't good or isn't real. It's exhausting. It ruins the whole experience. And I'm never going to meet my own standard. It's not even like it's an existable. It's not even like it's a standard that exists. It's just, yeah. We see why the translation of Satan is the accuser. It's that accusation. So that makes me feel that whatever like little action that I'm taking, which by very definition, progress and growth in anything is slow and it's one step at a time. So every little shoot that I'm putting forth and every little action that I'm taking, it always feels like it's like teetering on the edge, and there's like this whole sea and all of these winds of criticism and death. And my poor baby Italian will never survive. Except it does, because again, I really love, or Tokipon, like I love the language enough that there's still that core of it that like keeps me in, but it's a fight when it doesn't have to be a fight. Like, there's no pressure on me right now to learn either of these languages or any language. None. I'm doing it for fun. And it is fun. But even so, in this kind of, and I'm fairly good at it, like in this kind of environment, it's like a desert, like hostile environment. Like nothing can thrive there. And I suppose I shouldn't down talk deserts that way. Tangent on deserts, I heard somebody said like the desert isn't really a place of lack, it's a place of like extremes. Like there will be so much sun and wind, and then in the night it's so cold, and then when it rains it just completely rains, and then the sun comes up and just like takes it away, which is interesting. But anyway, an extreme and hostile environment where nothing can thrive easily, when it really doesn't have to be that way. And this is something that I also notice with climbing and exercise, and with writing, if I was more seriously into writing, and with any skill. For every one positive step or action, there's all of these criticisms, and quite unnecessary, uncalled for, and out of balance and unhelpful accusations, trying to just like take that away and say that it's not valid, or real, or good, whatever. But language learning is a good arena for that, and like really is a pure, like you really have to maintain focus, and it just brings all of those patterns to the forefront. So I notice it a lot. Anyway, what I'm doing right now is I've way backed off on the discipline, not even really officially studying anything, just trying to make a space that is more, make it like more qualitative, because again, I find very beautiful the languages and the process, and more like free, and just do what I want when it comes to my mind, and allow things to develop and grow as they will, which they have, despite the said incredibly hostile environment. To see this as a living process and like find the life and feed it actually has ethics of beauty. So for instance, when I'm just like talking to myself, just like most of the time with languages, I'll mix them freely. I don't care if I'm saying half Tokipona in a sentence and half Italian and half Spanish. I actually think that's quite fun. I like to do it. And also in my poetry, when it's very intense, it usually gets to multiple languages. Anyway, I'll just mix languages and I don't care, because it doesn't matter. Sometimes I will translate something, but not all the time. Sometimes I'll read, or like switch the language, or like read and watch something in Italian, but other times not, because it's just too much pressure. Sometimes when I think of it, look up phrases in DeepL Translator, which is the translator that I use, very good. And I'll put those on a list in the top of my diary entry for the day, so I'll sort of see them, but it's not a disciplined process of review, and I'm just looking at them for fun. I'm just trying to chill and enjoy it. And also I'm possibly going to Italy to do an au pair, and so in that case I would be in intensive classes because it's the only way to get a visa. It's ridiculous, the requirements in Italy, and I don't know, it might be fun or good, but it would be quite intensive classes, but so that would be another way of learning. Although, again, would have to get myself into a point of not really caring too much about grades, because mostly language learning classes are just not a good environment to learn the language. Anyway, all of those are how the practices that I actually do to participate in the languages. Basically, I love these languages. I should enjoy what participation I have in them and accept it, and enjoy also the process of learning more. But there is this masochistic sort of urge to crush all of that and say, no, that's not good. And what is the word for menospreciar? Not depreciate. It's not downplay. There's a word for it. But to do that. But honestly, I don't like feeling worthless. It's not like that's a good feeling. I just have that slave morality that says that that's good and virtuous. But it's not, actually. And it's actually not even effective. And yeah, I like the languages. I like the learning process. So I go on setting up a healthier, more relaxed, and more living space in which to participate in the languages. Ciao, ciao. Continuing to think, this is sort of a specialization of patterns that I can, definitely see elsewhere in the way that I approach life in general, almost gaslighting myself, or saying things don't count and finding reasons why they don't count, and only looking at the errors, and then in general setting up a space that's a lot more fraught and with a lot more standards and consequences and things that are just bad than the reality. When in reality, I'm safe, and in language learning, I'm safe. Nothing's going to happen to me, for forgetting a word or whatever. And yeah, I sort of am used to that, but I don't want to, again, with the perfectionism, this is one area in which perfectionism can help me, because I don't want to accept that it has to be that way, and that I have to deal with a certain level of discomfort and anxiety about the language learning, and that it has to be sort of something that puts me off, and it's a lot of pressure, because it doesn't. It is possible for things to be better than I can imagine, or for things to be as good as I can imagine. Again, with invalidating or choosing not to invalidate my own hopes and or worldview, or things that I see that perhaps others don't see, or that I didn't see in the past. But yeah, I guess an example of what I'm talking about is if I was with, say you're with a friend who's teaching you the language, or you go on a journey together and neither of you speaks each other's language, and you have to figure it out, and there's a okay, it's not like a save the world journey, so there's like no horrible pressure, but you get it. In that case, and it's a person who is open to you and likes you and is just there to like correct you. So in that situation, if I'm just learning that way, it's no problem if I forget something, if I make an error, if my accent isn't perfect. Those are all aspects of me, and they'll like be accepted and can be corrected. And it's like all part of it, and it's fine. Overall, I'm good. Instead of this like sucking the life and breath out of me, sort of. At every moment, like trying to prove myself, sort of rigid. I mean, you know, it's a feeling that we're all familiar with. But yeah, making it more like learning in a living way from friends, from open-end, friendly forces with plenty of time.